Hey guys, today on the BodCast, I am having a spirited and fun discussion with Adarian, Barr, and Jenn Pilotti about their book, Let Me Introduce You, Tales of Levers, Threesomes, and Movement. This is a very fun discussion that I think you're going to enjoy. It's about your body and how it's designed to move. Pull up a chair and buckle up. It's the Original Strength Podcast. You guys have a book, this book.
Yes.
Which, with an interesting title, Let Me Introduce You, Tales of Levers, Threesomes, and Movement. Tell me some stories about levers, threesomes, and movement.
Well, when we started working on the book, Adarian specifically said, I don't want to put out something that's just like everything else that's out there. So I want to do something a little different with it. And I said, okay. So we came up with a bunch of different titles. And at some point we were working within the complementary pairs. And we kind of had these trios going. And so I said, I wrote him one day and said, what about titling it this? He had come up with Let Me Introduce You, but I came up with the subtitle.
Get out of here! Don't! You already robbed me on the cover. What are you doing? Go ahead.
Well, I thought we had a perfect match and all this, but maybe we don't.
Right? Like, this is, yeah. Apparently Adarian remembers it a little bit differently, so
So let me tell my version of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, what's your version?
my version goes like this here, and this the honest version. So when the first title of the book was going to be, because I didn't want to do a regular book, but I wanted also to do something that people could relate to. And in my mind, everybody can relate to sex. And so the original title of the book was going to be called, look at him. I told you what.
I'll let him finish. So there's something funny about this.
The original title of the book was to be called, I Thought We Were Talking About Sex.
So the reason that's funny to me is because I was going to tell a joke that you guys mentioned the word sex just enough to make sure that I was locked in and focused on what I was reading.
Yeah,
well done.
At one point in time, I was told, we might put a PG-13 label on this bad boy. just keep everybody honest. Just keep everybody honest. No, but that was one of the things that we wanted people to relate. And so the one thing, we always talk about how people are kind of prudish about sex, but everybody, it's something everybody knows, somebody everybody can relate to, especially with movement. And so, throughout the book, it's laced with analogies that people can relate to. I think one of the ones that everybody really relates to is the kissing one, about pressure and kissing.
That was very well done, by the way. So that was, I thought that was neat, but extremely useful in how you described it, especially for the feedback or the information and the affirmation. I thought that was just great.
Jenn, that's for you. That's your reply. You wrote it.
I wrote it. I just took in the information. What's funny about the initial title is my husband actually read the first couple chapters recently. He's like, why did you guys change the title? It made so much sense before. I know. I thought of Adarian immediately. I was like, well.
Yeah, and so other people are saying the same. Other people that got like a preview of the book that knew about the original title said the same thing. Like, why did we change it? So, but they think we should come back to that title at some point in time. We'll see what happens.
Well, still the title you have is interesting because you got threesomes and levers. I don't know which.
Yeah.
Data. Either way you want it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and even like with the book coming about and stuff and everything, and like I said, Jenn wrote it. I'm down as co-writer, whatever the case may be, but I contribute some ideas, and it was up to her to translate these ideas and everything. And I thought she did a great job of it. And so the early feedback on it is the easy read, which we wanted. We didn't want people to get, reduced to this thing, and instead we want people to be able to read it, apply it, read it a couple of times, go out and apply it, and see how it all works, And some people, when we're talking about life skills, about, some of the things we're talking about on it involve, effort. How much effort you put in some, effort, resistance, least amount of, with levers and things like that. Inputs the output, so you get to your job or relationship, the input you get is going to be the output you get.
I did think you did it well. There was a lot of wisdom laced into the book, and I thought that was fantastic. I did think you did a great job of trying to make seemingly complicated things simple, that's refreshing. Um, so very well done. But before we get a little bit deeper, Jenn, what started this? How did you wanted to write a book? Like, what's your story behind wanting to create the book?
So writing books is something I like to do. Like, it's just a thing. This is actually the third book that I've written. And the way things worked, because Adarian and I self-published it, it's the second book that's come out. My third book is coming out in August because it's with a publisher. And Adarian and I have started a fourth book that's kind of a follow-up to Let Me Introduce You. So writing is just, it's one of those things. I really enjoy it. It's a creative outlet for me. And when Adarian and I started kind of talking about what kind of projects we could do together, I was like, let's write a book. And he said, I am not writing a book. And I kept just saying, let's write a book. And then he came back and said, all right, we can write a book if it's like
this. So, but in the book, Darian, you're like a mystical movement creature. Like, basically. I mean, the way she describes you, and so, well, you're the guy.
Well, I mean, I got some friends out there. Well, Natalie right now, she calls me the voodoo guy because, we just had a clinic for softball, and she tells all the kids, when Adarian gets here, he's going to work his voodoo on you, and it's all going to work out. And so that's even part of it is the mystical part of it is a lot of people wonder, like, what do I really do? And people, I get a lot of flack on Instagram, things like that, about what I really do. And so that part of the book was fun because people still trying to figure out, like, well, what does he do? what is he? But it's laced in there with things like, hey, I asked him about this and this is what he said. I asked him about this or this is what he said. This is what came back and stuff like that. So it's kind of like that. Because we talk about movement at times, and what we try to erase was that part. Like in the Wizard of Oz, where the guy's behind the thing. I'm the great and powerful. I'm great, and then the dog pulls back the curtain. What we wanted to do was pull back the curtain. On the whole process and everything. And so I think that's what. I think that's what we accomplished, which is pulling back the process. Say, hey, it's not that hard. It's really not that hard. You just have to really, think about it in simpler terms.
Awesome. So, and I'll tell you, Jenn, your introduction of the book, I mean, you had me at hello. Like, I could so resonate with your frustrations about movement, and
Thank you.
especially when it comes to trying to help people feel better and move better. Can you speak anything about that?
Yes, I am a seeker of knowledge. I am insatiably curious, and I have been teaching movement for 23 years now. And I've always been on this quest for the perfect thing, so I can help every single person in front of me. And what I kept running into is I would study all of these different systems, and there was no perfect thing. I would try to apply the principles, and I kept running into roadblocks. I'm like, why doesn't this work? I spent all this money. I was told this was the perfect thing, and it's not working for clients X, Y, and Z. Why not? And so what I started to do was kind of try to pull out the patterns. I'm like, all right, what does each system have in common? And then in the middle of COVID, I hosted a clinic, and Adarian came to the clinic. This is how we met, and it's in the book. But I taught this workshop, or this 1 hour session on feet, which is Adarian's specialty. I did not know this. Adarian followed up. Thankfully, he did not destroy me. He totally could have. But he said some very simple things that I used the next morning on my run. And I was like, there's something to this. I want to know more. And that was sort of how this all kind of came to be. I'm like, he knows something that I don't, which is surprising and kind of irritating. So how do I get more of that?
And so Adarian, what's your background then? How did you come to, like, you came to our workshop, but you knew all these things about feet, and you're the voodoo guy. Like, what got you started? How did you learn your voodoo?
Voodoo. Well, I mean, it's kind of like a long time ago. When I was in high school. I remember being really good, and I had coaches that were not really good, and so they gave me a book. They said, "Hey, take this book, read it, go home, come back, coach yourself." And I was like, "What?" you know. So at that point in time, it started my quest for more information. Like I said, I only had one book, and I'm thinking like, it's got to be more than one book on this. It's got to be. Even when I went to college, I almost flunked out of college because I would sit in the library and read books. I would just go sit and I would read, because things didn't make sense to me. Just like even I remember when they about treadmills. Is running on a treadmill the same as running on the ground? And I remember reading that original study, and I actually emailed the guy and said, "I think you got this wrong." He kind of cussed me out. 'Cause I was like, "Man, you might want to redo this," because my thing was, did the people even know how to run on the treadmill? Did they know how, or they just put on a treadmill and then you go, okay, and then I think in that study it said that, the wind was a factor at like, at 13 miles an hour. And you go, most people won't even get to 13 miles an hour. I mean, you hum it at that point in time.
Very much.
So you look at, so it was just things like that just like, what did you actually teach these people before you actually turn them loose on the treadmill to try and compare them to running on ground, or just everyday stuff where people say things you go, I don't think that's, but at the same time my philosophy is kind of like Jen's, where I think everybody's right, so how do we make all these right, and so that just, you look and look and look. Even like right now, how did I get into feet? Because I thought feet was just bad information to me. It was bad, it's right, but it's bad, so how we can turn this bad right information into good right information.
Awesome. So if you could distill movement or the secrets of movement so that somebody can optimize their, or just enjoy their own body and live their, feel good in their own skin, what would be a few key points of movement that you would share to someone?
Me or Jen?
Either. Yes.
You started, Darren.
Well, I mean, for me, one of my favorite sayings is it's in you already. And I think that's what people have to realize, that whatever, it's already in you. I mean, I think that was one of the best commercials ever, was the Gatorade commercial. Is it in you? Yes, it's in you already. And so, but I think people have been beaten up and beaten up and beaten up about it's not in you. It's not in you. You're weak. You're this. You're that. Da da da. And I got to put it in you. But I think the biggest thing is people understand that it's already in them. It's just a matter of how we're going to draw it out of you. We don't have to put anything else into you. We just gotta. I remember one time, like somebody told me about crawling patterns. I'm thinking like, what? And the guy told me I was uncoordinated because, for me, I'm an ipsilateral, not a contralateral person. And the guy's telling me like I'm uncoordinated. Like you must have lost your mind. Based on what? Based on what? A crawl pattern that I don't even do anymore? Get out of here. So you're dealing with stuff like that where the guy's trying to tell me it's not in me.
Right.
It's like, yes, it is in me, dude. You tripping. So, but most people won't go that way. Most people will say, well, okay, tell me what you know then. And then they'll learn this crawl pattern, and they know better than what they were before. They could have did the crawl pattern without this person. You can crawl ipsilateral, you can crawl contra already. It's just a matter of, and Jen and I have those conversations all the time, as I get on her about, some things she's paid for. I'm like, you paid for what? I feel like, why? And she'll explain to me, and I still be looking at her like, you paid for what? And I think like one of my biggest things right now is flow stuff. Nothing against those people, but every time I sit, I go break dance. Just learn to break dance. Just learn to break dance. You don't need no special title. I mean, and the thing about breakdancing is there is no official book on it. There is no certification on it. It's just you have to go out and do it. And I think that's what people are missing, is just go out and do it. It's in you already. Just go do it.
Awesome. How about you, Jen?
I think people need to play more. I think that is just huge. And I find it and when I say play more, I mean just give themselves permission to try things a little bit differently. And I did a consult with a woman who's hypermobile this morning, and she has all these aches and pains. And it was so interesting because towards the end of our conversation, she said to me, I'm learning aerial, which she's doing the lira, the hoop. But I'm like, oh, this is fascinating because she has all these things going on. I'm like, what's drawing you to that? She's like, I think it'll be really good for me. Intuitively, she knows what she needs, but she's so scared because doctors are telling her she can't do X, Y, and Z, and physical therapists are telling her she can't do X, Y, and Z. But she has this urge to play. She said, I love to be upside down. Like, oh my goodness, then you need to do more of that. But then, of course, there's other things. How do I get the strength to be upside down? And I was telling her, I'm like, you need to give yourself permission to change your hand position when you're trying to do hanging patterns. Change your feet position a little bit when you're doing like squat patterns. You don't have to be super rigid because, again, the input is the output. And when you change the pressure, you change the experience. There's a variation out there that works for everybody. You just need to, be willing to try some things.
So you are both very pro in allowing a person to be curious about where they can move and learning from their own body to discover what is actually in them versus being trying to stuck in a box and follow certain movement rules and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, even like I teach health. I teach a couple of courses, and I was just doing a thing this morning, and I'm reading. I'm thinking like, this is because we're talking about strength, weight training for strength increase and stuff like that. And so you're dealing with a certain number of reps and sets and things like that. And so the part we talked about this morning had to deal with how to start. And the first thing it says is low weight, high reps. Wait. That's not strength anymore. That's endurance. But it's predicated upon what? We don't want you to get hurt. But they did a 1RM test. So if you did a 1RM test, you already know where you're at. So it does. But why would I? Like you just went against what you told them to do to try and gain strength. And they said, maintain this for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of what? And so me as a professor, I got to counter the book. And why is he countering the book? Because the book is flat out wrong at this point in time. And I think we don't do enough of that to say, no, this is just flat out wrong for what you're trying to do. And so I think people need to be able to say that too. No, doctor, you're wrong. No, so you're wrong. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. But for this that you have no experience in, you're wrong.
I like it. So question authorities also, or question traditions and other things when you're trying to better yourself in movement and strength and endurance.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like some people say I'm an authority person, and I'm not. I'm just this guy,
You're a voodoo doctor.
Voodoo doctor, So, but it becomes when you look at, like we wrote the book, and so one of the books about levers, and it's about input and output, and levers are simple, and everybody has access to the information about levers because your body is, as it's saying in the book, you are a collection of these levers, of simple machines. You are it already, and so levers are kind of simple, where they give you one or two things. One lever can only give you one or two things. It can't give you multiple things. So if it gives me speed, then it can't give me slow. If it gives me slow, it can't give me speed. And that's just the way it is. You can't violate them. You can't go outside this. And so a lot of times you see people moving and they're moving against what the levers say you're supposed to be doing. Or even, as Jen and I talk about a lot of times, people, about class 1, class 2, or class 3 levers. You got to think about a class 3 lever is designed for speed, and we're speed animals. So unless you're a bodybuilder, there's no reason to try and bicep curl 95 pounds. You're going against what that lever is designed for. Yeah, you can make the body do anything you want to do, but you're going against what it was designed for. So like I said, you're a bodybuilder, carry on. Anybody else? Don't do it, So it's not even, so sometimes it's just understanding, and even like with words, Jen and I was talking about words and how people use words and things like that. And so it's just a matter of just, you have, like I said, you have this information already. Everybody has used the lever at some point in time in their life. It's not strange information, but when you see something that goes against that, like, wait a minute, that's not how a lever really works. So hold on a second. Let me ask you, that's what we need to do more of.
Awesome. Can you guys explain what is sitting in the bucket?
I'm so glad you asked that, Tim, because I've had to ask Adarian this like 6 times. So clearly I will let Adarian take the lead on this one.
Sitting in the bucket is a term that once again, it's a term that they use as in a bad way, but it's a very good thing to do. And so basically, if you're sitting in a bucket, you're not, you're not in an upright posture, you know. And so basically, your butt sticking behind you. Your chest is forward, your butt sticking behind you, kind of like a duck butt and stuff like that. And so the reason, and so once again, you know, if you look at all the fast people, they run as if they're sitting in a bucket, like if they had a bucket on them as they ran. And what do all the experts tell you to do? Straighten up. So it makes so once again, but if you straighten up, you just messed up the levers and the rotations. If you sit in the bucket, all of a sudden things work like they're supposed to work. You know. So but that's one of the things we try to do with the book too, is just say, just like pronation. You know, we said pronation to us doesn't exist as far as the feet is concerned. Feet, tibia, whatever the case may be. The body, yes, because we go, what's the word prone means? What's the word supine means? Then you go, okay, if I take my hand, it can be prone, and I can do what? Flip it up, make it supine. If I'm laying prone, I can do what? Roll over, now I'm supine. You know, the foot can't do that. The tibia can't do that. So why are we using those words for that? And people are confused. They're like, huh? Because now it means collapsing of an arch. Now it means something else. How do we take one word? So once again, if people say, no, that's not the word it means, all this other crazy stuff would go away.
It showed up at the first time I've been able to find reference to the word pronation in regards to the foot is a 1961 paper on foot biomechanics. I went searching. I was like, where does this term come from? That is the first reference I have ever seen for it. And the biomechanist, he laid out like how he was interpreting it.
And ever since then, here we go.
Ever since then.
So yeah.
I do appreciate the simplicity that you guys bring to the table when it comes to how the joints move and how the body moves. It's really good. So would this just if somebody were pushing a car, like say they were trying to help somebody to get a car out of the road or whatever, would their body naturally assume sitting in the bucket position? Mm-hmm. Like, is that kind of how it would be?
It would, yeah. There's no other way about it.
Because they can't push it straight up.
And you can't push it, the hips are into the car.
Right.
So yeah, and it's some other things that we have coming out. Like, we don't talk in the book about vertical loading, but to push a car, you need a vertical. It's a term called vertical loading. But the other part with that too is, how we talk about levers, and the body itself has these collection of levers. But once you encounter an external object, it assumes one lever. So, and that's what people miss out on. So if you're doing a push-up, your whole body just became a class 2 lever, even though the elbows are still acting as a class 3 lever. The whole body now is acting as a class 2 lever. So once you have an external object, it changes what lever we're actually operating with. And that's why even like we get on hip thrusts all the time, because they say that's a glute activity. No, it's not a glute activity. Based on how the levers are operating, based on where the joints are, based on where the focal point is, it isn't. It's a back extension exercise. And so it's easy. And as we say it all the time, if people understood levers better, they would exercise. They would program to exercise better. It'd be so much easier to just say, I want to train this lever, not this muscle. I want to train this lever. And so what do I need to do to train this lever?
That's awesome. I think that's powerful right there. Like how to look at the body and understand it so that you're training, you can actually train the body the way for the outcome that you want. Right.
And that's what we keep saying in the book, inputs the output. If you didn't get the outcome, you didn't do the input. But I say we want to keep it that simple. Even though you call me Buddha, there's no hocus pocus to it. It's just simple, and so even, we talk about compression and expansion in the book, or rotations in the book. It's stress, strain, and deformation, and the reason we came with that term, once again, it's not something we came up with. It's just something we said, hey, if you're talking about stress, in that sense, then you're accounting for all forces that you're encountering at that point in time. Because a lot of times when people are doing things, they're only looking at one force, but there's many forces involved with movement. And so the stress accounts for all those forces. The strain accounts for the resistance to all of those forces, and the deformation is what you get as the strain accounts for all the stresses and things like that. So it's very simple. You know, you don't have to say I'm doing this force or that force or this force. You know, it's just they're all in action. You can't single out one of them. They're all in action. You know, so if they're all in action, then I need strain to counter all of them, and then based on that, I'm getting a deformation of movement.
I do think if somebody's out there and they're a movement geek, this is definitely the book for them. No, it is, because it takes complex things and like distills them down, but then it also gives you such a sense of, man, the body's design is just freaking amazing.
Outstanding. Outstanding with you know, I mean, like one of the things we also looked into was, and this is coming out in something else, but we were talking about hydrostatic pressure, and that deals with the octopus, because you know we looked at the octopus and how it moves and how it gets into places that it shouldn't be getting into and things like that, you know. And then we find out that the octopus has 9 brains. It has a main brain and a brain for each tentacle, so 9 brains. But at the same time, octopus does what? It uses levers to feed itself. So this creature understands that it has no bones, how to make a lever out of itself to feed itself. And that's based on hydrostatic pressure, you know, and so the tongue in us is a hydrostatic pressure muscle, you know. And so it's some things out there that people haven't got into yet that you go, huh. So we started thinking about that too. And this is like down the road stuff we have coming out on movement, you know, just based on hydrostatic pressure and everything. So, you know, we're not done yet in a sense with what we're doing. We're about to expand.
So that'll be in your next book, Sex and Octopus. Which I'll go ahead and tell you,
be a bestseller. That's quite a name.
I just hearing me say it, I'm like, yeah, I'll read that.
So man. Yeah, no, it you know, like I said, it's funny because, and that's probably why we collab good. It's because we are like on different ends of the spectrum, you know, and everything. And so even like I said, you know, sometimes we argue about things and it'd be like, what? It's like I said, the whole, you paid for what? Why would you want to pay for that? That don't make no sense, you know, and or the words, you know. What word was we fighting over? It wasn't novelty.
Novelty. We had a good back and forth regarding novelty.
Yeah.
I think novelty is important.
I was thinking like, no, it's not.
So obviously we haven't settled that debate just yet.
they you know, they ebb and flow. Sometimes, you know, we bring them back around, you know, but like I said, it's one of those words that she was using. I'm thinking like, I don't think so, you know, and then so you kind of got to go out and do the research, look up the word, this is what it means. Okay, this was going on, and so I think it was about feet too. It's about feet and novelty and about texture and feeling things, yes. You know, and I was thinking like, what, you know, and I'm like, if you felt it before, it's not novel when you feel it again. Just a renewed sense of I felt this before. You know, she was like, no, it's a renewed. I'm like, oh. You know? So, and I was, and then I said, well, if I close my eyes and I step on grass, I know it's grass. It's not novel. I know it's grass. If I step on a marble, I know it's a marble. It's not novel. I know what it is. Now, I said, if I've never stepped on a marble, that's a novel feeling. But I said, most of these things people have felt already, have done already. So I don't understand how they can be novel movement. So that's where we left off at.
And the benefit of this, the benefit of this is we really strove for accuracy within the book. So it meant that I looked up a lot of basic words, because you realize you use these terms all of the time and you don't actually give a lot of thought to their etymology, where they came from and what they actually mean.
Can you say that again? That word's beyond my capabilities.
Etymology. Isn't that a great word? There's an entire
I already feel smarter for having heard it.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time actually on etymology.com when we were writing the book to like make sure I understood the words fully. So
So do you guys teach courses together? Like if somebody wanted to learn from you, are you guys going on tour? What do you how can they learn more from you guys?
We do have a course coming out. We're working on it right now, just dealing with, like I said, hydrostatic pressure. That's coming out. We have done webinars together on rotation levers and things like that, and then we're going to do some workshops on the book, and everything. And then I think we're also doing some online um, webinars on the book also. So.
And if someone wants to read, let me introduce you. Tales of Levers, Threesomes, and Movement.
I like
Where
how
can
you
they
did
go?
Tales of any place. I mean, we have a website that's called The Book hyphen. Let me introduce you, or you can get it at any book retailer. You know, it's everywhere right now. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kobo. Apple has it in an ebook format and stuff like that. So pretty much any place.
Awesome. You guys have time for a couple more questions?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
All right. This one's the most important. Do you like peanut butter?
Oh yeah.
He was quick. He was a lot quicker than you were, Jen. You didn't.
Peanut butter cookies, peanut butter and jelly. Yeah.
Crunchy or creamy?
Creamy.
All right. Jen, how about you?
I'm a creamy person as well.
What's your favorite brands?
I like Justin's.
Oh, okay.
What happened to Skippy? What happened to Skippy?
Justin's is
Skippy
kind of like
has
the new Skippy. They have honey. They have all kinds of spreads.
They do. They have a little less sugar, you know.
Oh, see, I'll put something out there. We're in Seattle doing a clinic, and we're out, and donuts is my favorite thing. You know, my favorite thing is donuts. If any place you want to go, I can find a donut shop. I can sniff them out, just what it is. And so one day she asked me about what type of donut.
Vegan donuts.
I was like, what? See?
Is that
Like, how you get a vegan donut? And that's what
vegan donuts are delicious.
And so that's when we get into these things that, like, I tell people, call it something else. Call it a vegan pastry. Call it anything else you want to call it, but don't call it a vegan donut because it's not a donut. It's not. You know, and that's when we talk about this whole fitness things where it's not that. Don't call it that. Come up with a new word if you want to, but what? Vegan.
So Tim, do you like peanut butter?
I do. So one of the things on the show is I try to every guest I have, I try to find out if they like peanut butter and what their favorite kind is. So running things. So now you have participated in my really weird thing that I do.
Well, this is good, but now I need to know: are you a creamy person or are you a crunchy person?
I am both. It depends on the mood and what I've got going on.
I
I greatly appreciate both and the ability to have both, though.
I like that.
And as far as brands go, like I'm the child in me still loves Jif.
Jif, there we go.
But the proper me will still look for all the new fancy nut butters that cost $12 a jar versus the $3.
Oh, yeah, I mean that's even like I think we talked about same thing like with almond milk. I'm like, what? Almond milk? Like almonds don't make milk.
That's the thing. Okay, so that's my issue with almond milk though, because that's like Meet the Parents. Have you ever milked a have you ever milked a cat? Have you ever milked an almond? I mean, it's kind of messy and just
yeah, no, that's the same. I'm thinking like that's water. They mash up, put some water to it, and you get this liquid thing. Sure, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's a milk alternative.
It isn't. Well,
shops.
It's an alternative.
like vegan pastries.
Like vegan pastries.
It's an alternative to a donut.
At that point in time, it's like you weren't gonna eat a donut anyway. So that's the other thing too. Like even with this business we're in, where I mean we spend a lot of time watching foot stuff. Or at least I do, and the funny stuff out there is like based on level perspective, that can happen. Just like a lot of times, especially in running, people say, I'm going to push off the big toe. From a level perspective, you can't. Not going to work out, but people keep, I'm getting stronger at pushing off the big toe. You can't. It's not going to happen, so yeah, that's like, same thing with vegan donuts. It's not going to happen.
Awesome, guys. This has been a hoot, man. I've enjoyed talking to you both.
All right.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, Tim.
Man. Have a good one.
See ya. Thanks for listening, everyone. Now get outside and play.